Hi, everybody. Hi there, and welcome back to another edition of Wyrd Wonderings, in which I chat with awesome and inspirational people who are on their spiritual path and are unfolding their own personal destiny. So, in this chat, I get to speak to someone who's been on a very, very special quest. And I first met in the internet world, this lovely lady, when I painted her drum, which you'll be able to see behind her. And I noticed a few months ago on Facebook that this drum and Raychel had been on an amazing journey. And I really wanted to talk to her about it and share this journey with you. So welcome, Raychel. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here, and it's great to spend some time with you over the interwebs.
Yeah, the interwebs on this side of the world. Now, you told me beforehand that you have studied as a biologist, and you've studied with wildlife and with massage. You work with horses as well at the moment. So your path has really been very earth-based and connected to animals as well, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely it has. Yep, it's always been my calling.
Yeah, and I just love that. I love that, just especially kind of ones I want to talk about on these kind of interviews is earth-based spirituality and also connecting with the land and connecting with deities or animal guides. And so I know you've had a very special bond with the feline. So could you just start, before we tell everybody about what you've been up to and this adventure you've been on, about your connection with the cougar, with the cat that's on the drum? Is there anything, any reasons why you felt drawn to having that painting?
Yeah, well, I have always been connected to cats. As a young child, I was really found myself outside with all the neighbor cats and all the stray cats around my house, and I always bonded with them, and I was really at home outside climbing trees with them. And so as a really young child, that's where I always was. So I always felt bonded, and I always felt, I didn't realize it was this really deep, like spiritual connection, but now later I realized that's what it was, but it was just me being a kid and bonding with them, and they were my friends. And so I've always had connection to felines. And then just in the last and I've always had pet cats of my own as well. My first pet was a kitty, and I've always had one. And then actually when I was a biologist, I had a pretty cool experience when I was doing my graduate research here in Washington State, where I am. I was doing some wildlife research, and I saw a cougar and had a pretty cool cougar encounter. So that it's just, there's always been kitties around, and I've always been attracted to them. But my spiritual journey really only started about 3 years ago, when I was watching someone do some tarot readings, card readings, and I got tuned into that. And then then that kind of drew me into really spirituality and really like tuning into that and kind of being aware of that. And then I just have been diving straight in since then for the last 3 years into spirituality. And I found shamanic practices, and of course have just been drawn to everything, nature and animals. And that's where my connection really is and always has been. And now I'm realizing that. And so I started practicing shamanic journeying, and it really resonated with me. And it's been such a magical journey to do that and to experience that. And I did I did some guided meditations because that was where I could start. And so I had done this guided meditation to find my power animal. And that was a really cool experience. And my power animal was a cougar. And it was really beautiful. And so ever since then, this cougar has just been with me, and I can call on her. And I've just been doing a lot of journeying and exploring with her, and getting questions answered, about my real life. And it's just kind of really helped this connection and helped me navigate through my life. And so I wanted to get a drum because I've just been really drum. Of course, they're so powerful, and I just love to listen to them. A lot of times I'm just listening to recorded, recordings of drumming, and I'm like, I need this in real life. And so yes. I think I found you on Etsy.
Oh yeah.
And
yes.
You had your drums on there. And oh my gosh, I was just like, this is it. This is my girl. This is what I need. so yeah, so I was just like, this is it. A cougar drum is what I need. And so reached out and had that. And then once I had the drum, then I realized it was time to learn how to drum, because I didn't even know how to drum. I had never even held one before.
Wow.
But I knew that this was somehow part of my path and part of my journey. And I'd heard drumming before, drum circles and gatherings and things like that, but had never drummed with one. It was just like full steam ahead. This is where I'm going, and I don't know what's going to unfold, but this is what I need, and this is where I'm going, and this is somehow part of my journey because it feels so good. So yes, kind of started practicing. Saw a few of your videos about drumming, so started practicing those beats. And then, it was time to take it a step further, and got an opportunity to go on this vision quest in the desert and really learned how to drum and really connected with it in a really powerful way. So
yes, this is a big topic we're going to be talking about today, the vision quest that was absolutely epic. I'm really looking forward to hearing details about that. But before we nip onto that, I think it's quite interesting that you did you've worked with animals, you've worked with nature all your life. It's like a really solid foundation before you branched out into the spirituality. I quite like that way of, you come from such a grounded place then, aren't you? It's just like you have this real connection, this real awareness. And then when you open up more to the spiritual side, it kind of feels like a really nice way of this kind of unfolding for you.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of the opposite almost of maybe what many people experience. I don't know, but yeah, it feels like it was just, I knew nature was home, and then, but the spiritual side didn't kick in for me until just recently. So interesting.
So just everyone that's watching, we are definitely in different parts of the world. So you're currently in Washington, aren't you? Washington.
Yep.
And you're from California originally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was sort of saying how maybe you asked me before, like, where the desert is around here, and I was like,
yes, we have it all.
Yeah,
we have it all around here. So it's we've got the rain and the the green, lush forest and everything here, and then not too far away, just a short plane ride down to the desert to Death Valley is where it was.
So where you did your vision quest was in Death Valley even. I mean, it's not called Cuddle Alley, is it? Valley. It's like the title is quite intense. And we are recording this on the full moon, the eclipse, the full moon in Scorpio eclipse, and we're talking about Death Valley and with Mercury retrograde. So I think it's a very epic time to be discussing this. Right, you tell me the story. I've never been to California, unfortunately. I've never been to Death Valley. Tell me about what drew you there. Tell me about the land, and just tell me your story about what drew you to this vision quest.
Well, I had been currently I've been diving into all things spirituality for the last 3 years, like I said, and so part of that has been astrology, and I've been loving learning about astrology, and I've been learning about my chart and learning about the different techniques, and then also at the same time I've been going through a really intense emotional experience for the last pretty much for the last 2 years. It's like all of a sudden like Pandora's box opened, and there's been a lot of deep emotions and like a lot of crying and a lot of just going into these deep places within myself, Scorpio, that I have never really gone to before. Like I've always just been like full steam ahead, go to school, do the thing. I'm like this happy, like optimistic, like bubbly person who's friends with everybody, and like everything's light and love pretty much. And so I never really had faced any like darkness or depth or anything like this. And so this was like huge recently that I've really started going into the underworld. And I had been researching about what was up with my astrology and learning about that, and I had discovered secondary progressions in astrology, and I discovered that currently for the last 2.5 years I've had my progressed moon in Scorpio. And so I was like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. Like, I have to do this work now. So that was pretty fascinating to learn that. So actually on the 19th of this month, my progressed moon goes into Sagittarius. So I'm looking forward to a lighter time coming soon. But this is, yes, I've been doing the work for 2 years, 2.5 years or so. And so I've been going into this place of going deep and of emotions and trauma and all things Scorpio. and really experiencing it and feeling it and just feeling everything. And it's been like really just heavy and just, wow, this is so intense. It's so intense.
And it went along with the lockdown as well, I guess, a similar time as all these lockdowns were happening. Was it that kind of timing as well?
That too, yeah, of course.
That sort of isolation, deal with your shit kind of thing, you know?
Totally. It was like time to go within, time to go inward. And like, that was also totally lined up with COVID and everything. So yeah, that was, but it was really good. And it was really beautiful time. And so it was like, I was working through this and I thought, okay, I know that I was really kind of feeling drawn to like the death of the old me. And like, I just want to have I have a couple spiritual community connections that I've been following online, including yours. Following online, which thank goodness for YouTubers and spiritual online communities through all this, because that's really what's gotten me through. And so I thought, okay, I've been working through stuff, and oh man, I feel this ceremony, this death and rebirth ceremony is like calling me. And I've kind of been doing it, and I kind of been working with the moon cycles as well, and on the full moon, kind of doing a little bit of ritual myself and trying to feel through all this, use my intuition for what I need to do. And then this vision quest came up. Actually, my sister lives in California, and she had connected with a friend of hers who leads these vision quests. And she had done some training and had been doing these vision quests there's a school in California called the School of Lost Borders. And it's this woman who started it about 50 or 60 years ago or something like that. She's elderly now, but she started doing these vision quests. She had trained with a Native American tribe down there. And so she had been working with the Native Americans, and they had taught her about the medicine wheel and about rites of passage ceremony. And so she felt so, empowered by this work and felt like it was so important. And it was kind of something that our Western culture has lost, and that, ancient cultures around the world, everywhere, have been doing rites of passage ceremonies for centuries since the beginning of humanity. And it's really important for us to get back in touch with that, get in touch with the land, and get in touch with our own human nature. And, we are part of nature, and just connecting more with that, and connecting with our ancestors spiritually, and connecting just with the wisdom and slowing down. And yeah, really just connecting and being still and having that healing in nature. And so she started this school and has been doing it ever since. And so there's been people that have gone and she's been doing it in Death Valley. She lives near Death Valley and worked with the tribe down there. And it's just, Death Valley is such a cool place because it's so desolate, and it's actually below sea level.
Wow.
And I think it gets to be the hottest place in the world, if I remember right.
I was reading about it having all the everything extremes, like the full-on extreme.
Yeah, just extreme everything. There's really poisonous rattlesnakes there. There's poisonous scorpions there. Everything. I mean, it really is like death. And the other interesting thing about it is that historically, if you look at, the geology is really fascinating. It's like it's actually back when the Earth was Pangea into one continent. It was the beginning of life started there. Ooh. So back in so it's called like the Cambrian period, and some people call it like the Cambrian or Cambian explosion. That was like the beginning of life. It was like a shallow sea there. Mm-hmm. And so that was like the beginning of life forms, was in that shallow, warm sea. And so you can see the fossils there now. You can see all the fossils.
I love a fossil.
Yeah. And so it's really cool. So it's really ancient, and it really is like just ancient, like everything, our past, the beginning of life, that's the ultimate ancestor, right? Is the beginning of life. So it's really powerful kind of centralized place of just really connecting and not having a lot, and so not a lot of people are there, so it's desolate, and so you can actually get away from society and just feel like you can just be with the land. And it's so desolate that you're not even that super distracted by a lot. there's just not a lot to distract you. There's not a lot. It's so simple, I think. And then also a rite of passage, and the way that they've looked at it is it really is kind of like this death and rebirth ceremony. The death of the old chapter of your life, or the death of the old you, or the death of some parts of you, or whatever it is. And the cool thing is you're kind of connecting with your own inner guru, and you're connecting with your own inner wisdom, and you're going within and you're connecting with the land to see whatever it is that you need. And so you just find out when you're there. And so there's not a lot of structure or guidance. There's some invitations, and there's some openness, and there's some, here's the medicine wheel. And so I kind of was like, learned about this and what this was, and it just felt like perfect. It felt like the perfect ceremony to really complete my journey of this opening of emotion and depth. And like, it was like, oh yeah, this could be the final completion of like this death of the old me, and like having a rebirth into what's coming next. And so it really felt like, yes, like this is what's next. This is my completion of what I want to do. And so, yeah, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to do it. I've got 2 little kids. I have never been away from them for more than a couple days. And so this was this was going to be a big journey. I just bought a house on a couple acres of property. So I have property and a house, and I have horses, and I've, got cats and dogs, and I've got all kinds of critters. And so I've got a lot of responsibility. So I wasn't sure I'd be able to go. And I kind of just wrote it off like, I probably won't be able to do it, just real life stuff, responsibilities and whatnot. And so but luckily I had been kind of connecting spiritually and trusting the universe, that if I was supposed to be somewhere and do something, then I will surrender that to the universe, and the universe will make it happen. So I did. I wanted to, but I wasn't sure if I'd be able to, but I just kind of put it out there like, I'm open. Let's see if it's possible that I could go. And everything just lined up perfectly, and I was able to go. And so, yeah, it was an 8-day journey total. Wow. And so, yeah, it just was like, okay, here's what I'm doing. This is the next phase. And so I just kind of, allowed that to unfold. And I was able to use my intuition and just surrender into what's next. Oh, this is what's next. Okay, here I go.
Amazing. And did you do any, so was it 4 days you were, or was it 3 days, or you were actually in the desert for?
So I was actually in the desert for 6.
Wow.
But so there was a group, but I was by myself. I did a solo, it's the solo time, they call it, for 4 days and 4 nights. So we there was 5 of us total on the journey. My sister, her husband, a good friend of ours, and then we had our guide, who was a friend of theirs. So it was kind of like a close, intimate group of us, kind of a friend group, which was really cool just to have a small connection. Because usually with the school, so we were kind of doing it separate from the school, we were kind of doing it as our own private journey. But if you do it with a school, it's like you might have a group of 15 people or 10 people or something. Everyone doesn't know each other. So what we did was a little bit different. But so we still kind of followed the guidance and the framework for what they do. So yeah, so we flew down, and then drove down, and then we met up and it was like Sunday evening or something like that. And sorry, I'm getting all these notifications. And so we met up, and we just kind of set up camp. We had a base camp. So we started out at a base camp and kind of prepared and talked about our intention. What do we want to have our intention as to do this ceremony, to do this rite of passage? Do we have an intention? And even if not, it was okay. It was like everything was going to kind of unfold too. And so you're just allowing and trusting too. So we kind of had our intention. We talked about safety, and we kind of just got prepared. And then the next day we went out and just kind of went on a solo walk. And before we went, we did a couple months of preparation actually, and did some solo walks to prepare and to get in touch with each of these shields. They call them the shields. So each direction of the medicine wheel, it's like north, south, east, west, and they call them the shield. So north shield, south shield, east shield, west shield. And so we went on, do your south shield walk, get in touch with your inner child. And so we kind of would do these preparations of going on these little walks and getting in touch with our intuition and getting in touch spiritually. And then the West Shield is like your inner woundedness, and North Shield is like your intellect, your intelligence, and organization and that side of you. And then East Shield is that spiritual connection. So we'd go on these walks, and so we went on our walk when we were there the next day after we had set up our camp, and we went out to find our spot for our what spot was going to choose us, as our home, what was going to be our ceremonial place. And so we went out on a walk for like most of the day looking for our spot that we were going to have our solo time for those 4 days. And we found our spot. I found a spot. It was called the Gateway, and they kind of had names because the guide was familiar with the area. We kind of had perimeters of like where to stay so that it was safe and we weren't like too far away. So I found this spot. It's called the Gateway. It kind of had a wall, and the wall ended, and you could walk. You could be on the south side or walk around to the north side. And then there were some lizards. There's these really cool lizards there called chuckwallas. And there's this really big lizard. Oh, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Oh, I hear you now.
Oh, good.
Yeah. For some reason I cut out, but
the lizards were just taken over from it. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, the lizards cut in. The chuckwallas. Yeah,
that's
they're so
name,
cool.
I must look at what they look like, the chuckwallas.
Yes. I'll share some pictures with you and just look them up too. But yeah, I got some really cool photos of them. And yeah, the chuckwallas, they're kind of like they look. Actually, it's funny because I have a bearded dragon, and they look a lot like bearded dragons.
Oh, wow,
so it's pretty cool.
nice.
They're big. Yeah, they're like big like that too. So they're really cool, and they're just everywhere. And so I saw these chuckwallas and was like, oh, that's my spot. The chuckwallas are calling me. This is my spot. So found my spot, and then we go back and bring out some water because it's a fast, so we're not going to eat for 4 days.
Well, that's big enough in itself, isn't it? Really, no food for 4 days. Like, yeah, that's massive in itself.
Yeah. It is, and I had never fasted before. I mean, I tried a fast, maybe for a day or two at the most, probably just on my own at home. But I was definitely nervous. I was definitely like, can I do this? Like, this is, all the fear, all the things. Yes. So it was like, oh my gosh, we have to fast, we have to not eat, like alone, be by yourself and not eat. Oh my gosh. And so, but we have 4 gallons of water, so we carry our water out, and we have a map, and we're showing our guide where we are on the map. And we did do a safety measure with our partner. So the 4 of us that are out doing our solo time out there, we're kind of near each other. We can't see each other or hear each other, but we're not too far from each other. So there's, there was a few other people that were doing this at the same time. And so we have a buddy, whoever's near us, we have a check-in buddy. And so we don't ever see them or hear them, but we find a spot kind of in between our sites, and we made a circle out of rocks, and then we found like a big rock, and one person would put the rock inside the circle like in the morning, and then the next person would go in the evening and take the rock out of the circle. Okay. So that each day we knew that the other person was okay.
Yeah. That's
so
really
like
that's good.
Yeah, I know, because after that was like, oh, after 4 days, like, what if something happens? You're just like out there for 4 days, like, yeah. So we did. So it was like, at least, you wouldn't be by yourself for more than a day without someone to come check on you if you weren't okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so we had that protocol, and then so then we had our last dinner together at the base camp and talked some more, and kind of we'd have our circle and chat and stuff about our intention and getting prepared and talking about all our fears and everything, and what we were going to do for safety and everything. So we had our last dinner, we had a meal, and then we went to bed, and then we woke up the next morning, and then it was like, now you cross the threshold. So our guide has this big circle out of rocks. We stand around the circle, and she's got some sage, and she's saging us and kind of saying a prayer, thanking our ancestors, and our ancestors are thanking us for doing this work, because a lot of what this work was go out into the desert, go out alone, fast, cleanse, connect with the wisdom, and kind of experience this, almost, kind of a hardship, but really connecting also. And then you bring that wisdom back to your community, and you serve your community after you've gone and connected spiritually with ancestors and and yourself and the land. And now you're going to come back and share and serve. And so it's like your ancestors are thanking you for, you know, bringing this and serving them in a way too. So it's sort of this thanks. And so we cross the threshold into our ceremony time. And so then we go out and we're just silent and we grab our backpacks. And so we've got water, we've got a sleeping bag, we've got a tarp. I brought my drum, of course, had a couple, you know, crystals and essential oils, and I brought some tarot cards. And so I had a couple things to play with, and some essential oils and stuff. Brought a few things, but not much. That was about it. So went out, and so each day was going to be a shield. So the first day we were in our south shield. So it was like, you're just going to go out, you're going to use your instincts, you're going to be in your inner child, you're going to just set up your camp, get comfortable with your space, explore, you know, just kind of be in that, you know, curious and be in the physical body and just be there, just be curious and explore and experience your space. And so that first day was pretty easy. You know, you're just kind of like, oh, cool, this is kind of exciting. I'm setting up my camp, and where do I want to sleep? And so that was fine. And I kind of found a safe place. I found a place where I kind of felt was safe, because of course there's like all these rocks and all these crevices and all these, snakes and scorpions. And like, I don't want to lay my sleeping bag next to a snake den, you know? So I like found a safe place. It was like kind of against the wall, against the south wall, and there was like no crevices or anything. And I was like, okay, I'll be able to see out, and it feels safe here. And so I set up my sleeping bag and my little camp and everything. And then I just kind of went off exploring a little bit. But you can't really, you know, you're not like hiking, you're not like exercising, because you're fasting. So you don't know. Yeah, there's no food. There's like no energy. So you're just kind of hanging out. You're just kind of moving slow and taking it easy. And so did that. And then the first night I was actually surprised. It was a new moon when I was there, which was really cool. So it was really dark, and so you could see the stars. So it was amazing. Wow. To just lay down and be under the stars. And so that was, I could see Orion. You know, that's like the easiest constellation, I feel like, for a lot of us to see. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I see Orion's belt. So like, that's always the easy one. So it was kind of comforting to just look up at that. And I had brought a star map too. So I was kind of learning the stars. Nice. It was like so amazing to be able to see so many stars out there, especially with I think that first night it was like the dark, what do you call it, right before the new moon, the dark of the moon.
Dark moon.
And so it was like just the darkest of the dark, you know, so it was really beautiful. Wow. So that was comforting. So I was able to sleep pretty well that first night. And then the second day is the Death Lodge. So that's like where you really get to work.
You feel that the next day, like, oh, is this more hard? Or are you just waking up and going, I'm hungry? Or, did it all kind of start feeling a bit weird that day?
Yeah, just like, oh boy, here we go. We're in it. Like, we're committed. And that first day also, I think that there's like a Mayan teaching that kind of went along with each of the shields too. So that first day was Decision Road. So it's like, you've decided, you're committed. Here you are. Here we go. We've committed to this. So then the second day, you're like, whoa, okay. Like, what still 3 more days. I know. What did I commit to? Oh my gosh. Am I going to starve? Like, where are the snakes? Did a scorpion crawl in my sleeping bag? Like, oh my gosh. So all the fears. But the amazing thing is that it was like, I as soon as I got up and left my sleeping bag and my little home, it was like I kind of went off and walked off around the gateway area, they called it, kind of on the north side of this wall. And then it was like all of a sudden I kind of astral projected or something, like everything just fell away, like all fears, all just human like emotions and fear and thoughts and all that stuff just like fell off. It just like fell away. It just melted away. And so I really kind of went into this state of like just effortless ease and bliss. And it was really amazing. I really just kind of like went into this bliss state. And of course I had my drum the whole time. And so that was really cool. As soon as I got there, I was drumming, like, I'm here, like I'm making my I'm like claiming my space here in the desert with my drum and my cougar. And so that was really special and powerful because it was like you could just hear it. There's canyons and there's a lot of features and stuff, so the drum just out there was like so just powerful, echoing off the walls and everything. So that was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you connect more with the cougar having that experience, like with your spirit animal? Did he?
Oh yeah, it felt like we merged.
Yep. Oh wow.
Cool. Yeah, maybe that's kind of what happened too. It was kind of like I left my human body and like I merged with my spirit cougar, and like here we go off on an adventure in the desert together.
Yes.
To like merge it was like our realities just merged. It was like the spirit world and my human self like went into one place. It was really cool.
Amazing. Oh, love that.
Yeah, it was really powerful. So then or maybe I went into her world. I don't know. It was more like I left my body and went with her in her world, maybe, because it just felt so blissful. And it just felt so easy. And then it was like, then I didn't have any fear. Then it was just like bliss. Then it was just like, and then I also got a lot of insights. I had a journal and a pen. Me too. So when I wasn't walking around drumming, I was doing a lot of journaling. And so I was doing a lot of writing, and I was getting a lot of thoughts and like a lot of just clarity and insights and understanding. And so it was really cool. I was really busy writing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I remember at one point my wrist was like hurting from all the writing. And I just remember being like, Spirit, slow down. Like there's so much you're telling me, but like I can't write this fast. So I definitely was busy, and there was a lot of really cool just insights and clarity that was coming, because it was like I could just be silent. When we're in the world, it's like so busy and noisy with stuff happening in the world and with other people and stuff. But when you're out by yourself in nature, I mean, I'm sure we all experience this a little bit when you go out, and like I feel like that's why we're all so called to being in nature, because that's where we connect with ourself and with spirit, and we're able to slow down and be quiet enough to like hear that wisdom that we're all seeking, and so it really felt effortless and easy and flowed right out. So that was really, really lovely.
It's quite hard without like something like a quest or without something where you're making yourself stop. It is really hard to fully let go. If you're out for a walk in nature, you go, oh, I've got to go back now and get on with my work, or you're sitting there going, oh, I've got to go and do that now. There's always that kind of niggling, but having that sort of, I guess, that container of you are now doing this, there is no distractions. It must give you so much of a deeper and very rare feeling, I guess, of being completely surrendering and listening.
Exactly. And you can really just be present. Like it's so, because you have, exactly. Like you don't have anywhere to be. There's no meetings. There's no tasks to take care of. Like there's just nothing to take care of. There's nothing to do. There's no demands. It's just like be here with yourself and in like the openness and like the emptiness of like the space. And so it's like, it feels very free and just very, it's like you're able to just be. And it just is so, it's like, oh, that's why we need to meditate. That's why we need to meditate, because we can go to this place and like it's so like it's like inner peace, really. It's like just that inner peace and that connection too. At the same time, like I didn't feel lonely. I was afraid I was gonna feel lonely, but I really didn't feel lonely at all. Of course, I had my cougar, my imaginary, not imaginary, but some people would say it's imaginary, but it's like whatever you want to say. But like I had my spirit, connection, and it was so strong that I wasn't lonely at all. I felt so connected, and it was kind of like, this is.
No, it's so weird to feel. That you were saying, like the things you probably worry about is, will I be bored? Like we'll be sitting there going, or like aware of the time, or will I be lonely? You're like, no, I was super busy and I felt connected. It's just, it
is. And it's like, you wouldn't think that. You would think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go out and be lonely, I'm gonna be hungry, I'm gonna be bored, and I'm scared.
Things we don't like.
But no. And it's like all of those things you think you would. And even for a long time, I've been wanting to do even just like a solo like backpacking trip. Like I thought, I'd really love to just go out by myself in nature. I've never really done that either, where I've just gone out by myself overnight and slept out in the wilderness by myself overnight. And I've always kind of wanted to do it, but I've always been a little bit afraid to do it. And I've never made it happen. I've never committed. There's always an excuse not to, or something else come up, or it's so easy to just not do it, even though your soul's calling you to do this.
Yes. Yeah. But you know, and you did it in the extreme way. You've like gone, okay, I didn't do backpacking. I went for a vision quest for 4 days in Death Valley.
Right. But now I'm like, oh, going out and doing just an overnight by myself isn't going to feel that hard now.
Exactly.
And it's going to feel like easy now, because I just like, I made myself do it. And I think I needed that accountability of like a group too, because it's hard to just sometimes go out and do things by yourself.
Absolutely.
But because I had this group that I was going to do it with, it was like, all right, here we go. Like, you just need that accountability sometimes to just like make yourself do things.
It's one of those things that are just so, as you say, initiatory and transformatory, and you remember it for the rest of your life. And it's so easy for us to miss out on those opportunities, isn't it? Because we don't give ourselves that time or allow it to happen.
Right. And even with this trip, I thought, oh no, I probably can't go. Like, I said no at first, and it really wasn't until the last minute that I just was like, I'm gonna allow myself to want this, because I do want it, and I'm gonna allow myself to have it if I can have it.
Yeah.
And just surrendering to that desire, and just knowing that I did want this, and then I was gonna allow it to happen if it needed to happen, even though it was scared to do it. There was like fear around doing it. And so of course there's like, it's easy to go to those reasons for not doing something, and my soul was calling. But as soon as I said, well, I'm just going to see if it could happen, and because it happened so naturally and so easily, I thought, well, I have to do this, even though I was kind of like wanted to back out, because I was like, oh, but maybe I don't want to. This is going to be too hard.
Yeah, resistance is big. Yeah. Probably the bigger the resistance, the better the feeling, isn't it, when you get through it? Like,
yeah, right. The bigger the reward. You know, and it was so rewarding. And so it really was like, and then just being in the death lodge of like, let's let go of everything now. Let's let go of everything that's like holding me back, anything that's like, and it was sort of like, at that point, I was so in the East Shield of like being connected spiritually. And, you know, it wasn't even like I necessarily needed to do this practice of like this whole like ceremony, but it was kind of like, well, my human self needs this, like my human self needs to go through this process and release all the, you know, the wounding and the trauma and whatever that is, the fear, insecurity, all these things. Like, I've got to release all that stuff. So, and then also, you know, all of those things that come up in relationships with other people, because that's what we're all doing, is interacting with each other. And that's where, you know, it gets hard too, because we're trying to be with each other here in the world. And so a lot of that day with the Death Lodge was releasing things that I had with other people. So it's like, anybody you had any you know, toxicity or negativity or trauma, or, you know, anything you had experienced that was like hurtful or negative, we're going to release that. And there's a song and a teaching. It's a Hawaii. I think it started in Hawaii, but it's I always forget how to say it. It's like the Hopo.
Oh, yes.
Ono Ono.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Say it, because I never had to say it. Yes.
It's like Ho'opo'ono or something like that.
I know what you mean, and I have used it before, and I do find it quite challenging and triggering, and I think that's what it's meant to be, isn't it?
Triggering,
because you're like going, well, you know, you have to sort of say you're sorry to, maybe if you're thinking about an ex or a person that's treated you quite badly, and then you have to apologize. I know that's not what it is, but it's the fact that you have to get through that layer before you get through you saying sorry to yourself, and you're kind of, you know, this whole thing. But I was like, I'm not sorry.
Oh yeah, it was so hard. I had to. So I wrote a list of all the people I'd had any resentment toward, or anger toward, or any of these negative feelings toward, anyone who did me wrong. I had to write a list of all these people, and then I wrote notes to all of them saying, so you start with, I'm sorry for something, which is like, you know, I'm sorry, you're the one that should be sorry. But no, it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to think of something to say sorry about, even if it's like, I'm sorry I didn't speak my truth, I'm sorry I didn't, you know, communicate what I needed, or whatever it was. I had to figure some way of like taking some responsibility for the dynamic with someone else that wasn't healthy or whatever. And so I had to say, I'm sorry for something, please forgive me, and then I forgive you for something, and then thank you for something, and then I love you. And so that was some people were easier than others, of course. Like there was a couple where I was like, I'm sure somewhere in my being I love you, but this is the hardest thing I've ever said, you know? So it was hard, but then it felt good. And then of course, during the sunset, you know, I get up there with my drum and just reinforcing it. And the cool thing about the drum was like, it just felt like it made everything that I was doing, it made the ceremony like real, and it made me like really feel it in my body, and like having that physical thing to do and to feel, and just bringing that vibration to what I was doing and what I was saying, you know, as the sun is setting, and like saying that mantra over and over and drumming with it, and it just reinforced it and like made it, I was like anchoring into this. It was like I was feeling it, and it just made it so physical, which was like so powerful. It just made it like just next level power is what it brought, you know. It's so cool.
Oh, I'm going to share some of the photos with this so people get to see like you and the drum and everything in this place as well, because it just blew my mind. But at first I was like, what is going on here? Like I was saying to you earlier, like sort of the visual of just seeing that drum, that, you know, from my little studio in kind of chilly old England to Death Valley and there's epic sunsets or sunrises. I was just like, that is a journey in itself, isn't it? It was just like, wow.
Right, she went on her journey, like it was, and she was so at home, and we were just so at home. It was like I remember like crying at one point too, because I was like so overtaken with emotion, because I was like, we're home, like this is like we're home, like this is home, and we're in our natural like space and our state. And I felt like we really were like one with that too, and it just felt like so magical just coming home like that, and just really being there and feeling so comfortable and so at home, and then just like kind of letting go of all the stuff that we didn't need. Felt really good to just really like, okay, we're really letting go of stuff, and like we're releasing all of that, and you know, reinforcing it again here today with Scorpio moon, this eclipse. It's like, let's eclipse it all out, and we're just going to keep talking about it, and we're just going to keep releasing it, and hopefully, you know, like sharing the message with other people that like it's so possible to do, and it's so powerful to do. And it's like I just feel like more of an empty vessel for positivity too now, because I really do this, you know. Like it's possible to really let go of things that we want to let go of. And I've been telling myself for a couple of years, you know, going through this spiritual journey, you know, okay, like being more aware and being more conscious of things, which is so amazing when you start to go on a spiritual journey and have that connection and really get that awareness. It's like so great. But then to like doing something like this made it really physical, and it was like, oh yeah, I've been talking about letting go of fear and letting go of insecurity and whatever, but now that I went out with myself, and it just kind of like made it real, and like made it physical, and like I could actually feel it in my body as like a real thing that I was like letting go of. So that was really powerful. And like and then in the evening I made a little fire and burned all these little notes, and asked the desert to just take it all from me. And it was just like more and more things like, what else can I do, you know, to make this physical, and work with the desert to really just like make it real and really release everything, and let whatever needs to die in the desert, and the desert can take it. And that's what the desert does. That's what Death Valley does.
Sure. Nice.
So
what was day 3 then? So that was the sort of the death blood.
So so that was day 2. That was the death blood.
Day 2.
So then, so that was day 2. So then day 3 is the North Shield, and that's where you're going to make it right with yourself. And you had mentioned this earlier about making it right with yourself. So you're making it right with everyone else. You're releasing things with everything else, but now you have to look at yourself and release everything within yourself. And then also it's kind of like this review of your life too. So, you know, when you die, you always think of like, oh, the life review, or the judgment, I guess. And so you're kind of doing that with your own life. You're kind of reviewing, like if you were going to die,
So you were saying if one was going to die at this point, then you were that kind of that reflection.
Right. And so then you're going to, have a review of your life. And so that's the North Shield. And I had actually brought this little medicine wheel out. I had a notebook, and let's see if I can show you
there we
the
go.
medicine wheel. So you have north, south, east, west, and I had taken notes about kind of what the medicine wheel kind of represents so that I could kind of meditate on it and focus on it. And so the North Shield day was the purpose circle. And so it was all about just reviewing your life. Like, where did I, do I have regrets? Did I not do things that I wanted to do? Or like, what did I accomplish? Where did I go right? Where did I go wrong? Kind of doing that reflection of your whole life. And then thinking about what you want to release, like about me and about the way I lived or anything like that. So then it was kind of like, okay, write a bunch of notes that I'm going to burn again about, releasing this, releasing fear, releasing self-doubt or whatever. And so that whole day was also very busy, where I'm like getting a lot of insights and just connecting with myself and thinking about, my life and how I lived, and really kind of sinking into like, well, if I'm going to die, like looking at my whole life. It was a really powerful exercise to do, to just like reflect on my life. And, and it was like good and bad, it was like, oh, here's where I went right, here's where I went wrong, here's where I could have done things differently. And just like being okay with all of it, and just like accepting all of it, and accepting me, and also being proud of myself for what I did do right. And so that was really cool. And then that night, so the third night, you're supposed to do a vigil where you like stay awake all night, because that's like, now we're gonna really die. So then it's like your death happens and you stay awake all night. And so I had a little fire, and I had a little candle, and had a little fire, and I was like burning all these notes of releasing whatever the last final things of like, we're releasing this, we're releasing that about myself. And so that was really cool. But then it got a little creepy too, because I'm just like sitting there at night in the dark by myself. So I had a pretty trippy experience in the night, where I heard a noise, and it sounded like a dinosaur, and I was convinced it was a dinosaur.
Fair enough.
Yes. Yeah. And then I saw like a vision, which was kind of this blurry, and I just figured, oh man, I haven't eaten in 3 days. I'm probably just hallucinating and tripping from not eating and being alone out here by myself. I'm just like going crazy, I guess. And so, I saw this like kind of blurry vision kind of in front of me. And I thought, oh, my glasses are dirty, maybe, I don't know. And then I started getting all these scary thoughts that came in. And then I was, all these scary visions were coming in. And then I just thought, oh, Spirit, stop sending me all the like dark energy. I know that you taught me what to do with it. And I know you taught me like how to work with energy, because I had been kind of doing that over the past couple of days too, just like practicing, like, bringing in light and connecting with the center of the earth. And I would kind of imagine like sending, any negativity or like all these things I was releasing, I was like imagining them going into the center of the earth to be like transmuted into new life, and just like having that energy recycled into love and light. And like, so I kind of feel like I was kind of like practicing these like, energy powers or something. And it was like, okay, I know what to do. When I feel negativity, when I feel like I'm being slimed by toxic energy in the world.
Good word
like,
for it, slimed, yeah.
Right, like we just get slimed, but like we know what to do with it. We can handle it, and we can send it off into the light, send it out. And so I feel like I was kind of practicing these techniques that I knew that I'd be able to come use in the world. And so then when this happened in the night, I was like, okay, but don't send me all the stuff to transmit. Yeah, I know where to send dark energy, but like, don't send it all to me. Like, I don't want to take on all of it. Like, come on, this is a lot, And so I was feeling that. And then I just imagined, okay, I know what to do. I just have to do what I have to do. And so I called in my Cougar, and she was just like right there next to me, just like standing powerfully, like nothing is gonna bother us, don't worry, and she just kind of brought that power of like, we own this space, and like we're so powerful that that nothing is going to hurt us, you know, like we're good. And so she kind of brought that into me. And then I called on like the angels and spirit, you know, everybody come, like, I'm kind of scared, like I'm, you know, I'm feeling scared. And so then I also just kind of imagined some energy, you know, bringing in light and kind of pushing out light and saying, and then I just was like, go away, go away, go away. And then it got silent. And then I saw what I swear was a UFO going through the sky. It was like this bright light. And then of course I'm like, oh, I'm sure it's an airplane. But then I'm like, no, that's not an airplane. And so I'm like really seeing things now. And I see this light kind of going through, and it was like really bright white, and it was like kind of sparkly with like different colors. And it was like moving really slow, like real slow. And then I kind of was like, is this coming toward me? Like, oh my gosh, no more
no
stuff.
aliens
Come on.
Today.
No, I'm like, please, no aliens, no. And so I just was like, stop. I was like, stop. And then it stopped. And I was like, whoa. And then I stopped being fearful. And then it was like, oh, you're my friends. Like, oh, okay. Like you're here to help me. And like, you're my family or my friends or something. And then it was like, oh, you're here to like, you know, take this from me. Like you're like, we're a team or something. So then I started feeling like we were a team and we were here to you know, send the dark energy into the light, send it home. And then I remember being like, go home. And it was like, where should I go, up or down? And I'm like, go to the light. You need to go to the light to be healed, to go home to the light to be healed. And then it was like my family was here helping me take this away and so it was like, this was a whole experience in the night, which was pretty trippy and like pretty like kind of scary, but like also comfort. Then also I kind of came through to like, okay, it's okay. And, you know, I have support and I have like, you know, we're like this team and like, this is kind of what we're all doing. It's like, we're just these souls that like came to earth and we have help on the other side and we're all working together to like heal the world. And like, here we are, we got our work to do. And so I just started getting all these thoughts that just made it like, okay, it's okay. And I have powers and I can, you know, bring the light and send any darkness to the light, and it's going to be okay. And you know, and then I was just kind of like still kind of freaked out, but everything got quiet and everything, it was like that was over and now it was quiet. But then I was still kind of like, whoa, that was trippy, like, oh man, I'm kind of freaked out a little bit. But then you know, I had my candle and just like, okay, got my candle, there's these little bugs flying around that are distracting me, and then this little beetle comes, there's this like black beetle that comes and it's just like walking around the candle and like just making laps around the candle, and I'm just kind of staring at it and it's just kind of helps soothing me. And then it like turns around and starts walking in the other direction around the candle, and I was thinking, wow, this is interesting, this is like what we do with horses, because I work with horses. And you know, you see like you lunge a horse, like you know, people will like lunge the horse in a circle to like get them to kind of work and kind of, you know, almost like a meditation, almost like let's just get tuned in, let's calm down, let's get into a Zen place. And I was kind of like, oh, that's interesting, that's like what we do with horse. I'm like, oh, this is what this beetle's doing. And I'm like, oh, this is like what I need to do, this is like what I'm doing now. So it's just kind of like this. That's awesome. I got like, you know, then it was like, then I was like one with the beetle, you know, like getting myself to in this meditative calming state, like everything's fine, just walk in a circle. So then I was able to calm down enough, and then I like got a couple hours of sleep that night. And then the next day, so then day 4 is like I guess in Tibet, they call it the Bardo realms, and like the liminal space of like, well, you died now, like now you're dead, but like you haven't been reborn yet. And so then it's like, okay, so I'm just in this space of like, I'm dead, but like I'm not reborn. And so I'm just hanging out. And so that was kind of an interesting day because it was so quiet. It was like so quiet. And that was kind of that boredom feeling. I'm just like, well, now what? Like, I just like sit here and just like do nothing. And like, there's no thoughts. I remember like cleaning out my ear at one point, like, where's all the thoughts? Where's all the insight? Like, spirit, you're supposed to be talking to me. And, you know, and it was just like nothing. It was just like dead quiet. And I was just like, whoa, okay, this is weird. But it was also peaceful. And so and then I realized that I needed to just meditate and just be in that like nothingness, and how that was sort of an important thing to do. So then I finally just kind of surrendered into it and was like, all right, let's just be quiet. Let's just embrace the nothingness and embrace the silence and just meditate and just be. And so I surrendered into that. And then it was like just being in a place of peace and bliss still for that day. And then, yeah, I never really felt hungry either, which was so weird. I felt like sort of weak, like I didn't want to go on a hike, but I didn't feel hungry. I felt like it was okay. I was okay. I was like, I don't need food out here. Like I didn't even need it. I didn't even, it was interesting just being in a different state like that. And then, and then I kind of got sad because then I was like, oh no, like now I have to go back into the real world.
Yeah.
And like tomorrow morning, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be reborn, and then I'm gonna have to go out back into the world, and I don't want to because this is so easy and effortless and blissful that I don't want to go back to the real world because that's hard. And it was like, this is not hard. That world is hard.
Yeah.
And then I like grieved about that because I didn't want to leave. Then I was like comfortable now. And then I didn't want to go back. And so then it was kind of like, okay, now I have to reintegrate back into my body and like somehow integrate this whole spiritual experience with my human self. And I have to integrate those things together and come back into the world. And so that was kind of the more challenging thing, I think, first mentally, and then we came back that next morning and just came back and kind of did our circle and shared our story and did some mirroring for each other, which was really cool, just to kind of reflect back our stories to each other and like kind of doing the mirroring of like what we saw and what we heard and what was powerful. And so that was actually really helpful to, anytime you share things and you talk to someone else about it, a lot of times you end up getting insight from someone else's perspective. So that was really, really great. Wow. But then it was like, all right, come back. And then it's kind of like a year of like integration now. It's like, okay, now, and then kind of the invitation too is to go back in a year and just maybe do like a 24-hour like completion of like, okay, like how was that ceremony? Like the ceremony kind of carries on for a year. And you just kind of integrate the whole thing. Cause it's like, sure, you do this 4-day thing, but it's like, it really carries on to like, well, now what? Now, how am I going to integrate this into my life and into myself and into my relationships with other people and into the world? And how can I, be of service? And how can I, help and just be the best that I can be and be in my full potential of myself. So it's pretty amazing.
I think it's really lovely to have maybe that year, because otherwise it kind of, maybe I feel on why it might feel like that was a different life or something else, and to come back and go, aha, anchor it in another year and anchor that memory of what happened. And I've only ever done a 24-hour vigil. I have never done, but I remember I was really resonating with what you were saying about being awake all night, and I did it in the forest, and the 3 a.m. fears, every horror movie you've ever seen kind of thing. I even watch horror movies, some are worse. And it's that kind of that realizing, what am I doing? Like, why am I out here on my own? And this, and then, and it's going through that and moving through that and into the dawn. Because I remember, because it wasn't really that, I was living in London at the time, so it was just kind of on the outskirts. And I just remember that dawn chorus was the best dawn chorus ever, and like emerging into the dawn was, I think there was somebody out doing their morning jog and I just came out like and they must have thought like, she is what the for and I was thinking recently, well, I'm thinking for many years now, must do it again, but of course, like you say, you go but there's no more making you do it, or there's and then it's got put off, and then I think a couple of months ago I was like, right, now's the time, I found my spot, I'm going to do it. And the next day I refractured my ankle, and it was like, oh, that's interesting, because I couldn't do it because I couldn't walk. But then I realized, because it made me sit still, which is a different kind of thing. It made me realize that I had been running away from so much shit, like keeping myself so busy that and there was no way that I'd get the most of it or be right to do a vigil in that mental space. I had to stop, integrate a lot of stuff. And then when that healed and other things healed with it, I was then able to go and do it and get something from it. So it's when you put that intention, isn't it? The universe starts working, and unfortunately it worked in ways of messing my ankle up, but
Right, but you needed that. That was like part of it.
It was part of it. It was like, you're not doing anything until you sit down, and otherwise it could have been too much, or maybe missed the point of it if I hadn't sat and just did that first. Yeah.
Yep. It was like, you've got this other step to do first before you're ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also hard sometimes where, it's cool to realize that we're really in it like all the time. Like it's so easy, you go to a retreat or you go to, a spiritual gathering or have a spiritual experience, and you go somewhere and you have this experience, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was bliss, that was amazing, that was so lovely. What I had all these breakthroughs, and now I know what I want to do with my life, and you get all this clarity. And then a lot of times what people experience is they go back to the regular life, and then they just kind of fall back into the old like patterns or programming that we were already in. And then it's like hard to keep it with you. And so it's great to realize that like our whole life is that, and like we can be in it all the time. And we can, I still remind myself that like I can just go outside on my lawn, I can just go outside on my grass, and just go back to that space and go back to that place. Or even if I just go like sleep outside in my yard one night or something, like it doesn't have to be this big thing where we have to fly, go on an airplane and fly far away and go on this big trip and take a week off of work and do this. It's like, we can still do it. Just even if you're in the city, like go to a city park, even just sit on the sidewalk with one of those trees that's like planted in the sidewalk, and there's like grass growing out of the cracks of the sidewalk. It's like, whatever, like you can still connect right there,
Yeah, absolutely. And no, totally. And I think what I love what you're saying as well is there's so many, I think pretty much probably every sort of earth tradition or indigenous tradition would have had this kind of initiation ceremony. It would have been something that I think that everyone, because I do a lot of the Viking studies and the inside there, and that is Utaseta sitting out. It's what you do. It's what you do to listen to the gods. It's what you do to listen. And I think we miss on some initiation ceremonies, like you were saying, because we have so much is lost. There's so many of those important ceremonies that we don't have, and it's important to make the space to re-establish a sense of ceremony, a sense of, okay, like a year later you will do it, or at a point when you're maybe going through some life changes, you'll go, hold on, it'll be good now for me to witness it, to kind of honor this phase, if it's a crappy phase, to honor it in some way. And and it's easy to make excuses not to do it, but I just love the fact that you're talking about how this has affected you. So how have you found life since you've been back? Was it a couple of months ago, was it you did this, 2 or 3 months ago?
It was the end of March, so like maybe a month and a half. Yeah. So end of March, got back kind of like the 1st of April, I think it was. And it's been, since I've been back, it's been really good. It's been like, I just feel like a lot of that anxiety about everyday life has it's easy to go back to just like getting into a centered place, and just kind of like, it's almost like I almost like feel like I have a bigger perspective on everything. Like so much stuff doesn't matter, like so much like day-to-day stress. It's easy for me to see that I'm in the stress of like, oh, being on time or like doing all the things. And it's like, oh yeah, I can just let that go. Like, oh yeah, I can just relax into that and not get tense around like things of life. And like, I can almost like see myself a little more clearly and just like catch myself like going back into that space of like, oh, I'm getting tense, or oh, I'm getting anxious, or oh, I'm feeling stressed, or worrying about something in the future. It's like, oh no, I don't need to do that. Like, no, that's not real. Like, that's not even, or like, even if I get, fear around something, I almost have this mindset of like, oh, that's not even real. And that's not even mine. And I can just like, let it go, or like send it down to the earth. I can just stand, if I'm standing, it's just like, I'm just going to imagine that that's falling away, and I'm just going to send it down to the Mother Earth and let her transmute that nasty energy into new life. And so I can just take 1 second and just get back into clearing out whatever I'm feeling that I don't need to feel, and just feeling, I just feel like I can be more conscious of that, which has been really good. And then the other thing I've been noticing is just like feelings about other people. I feel like has changed. Like, I feel like I have a lot more like empathy and compassion for other people. And I feel like I'm able to see through the stuff and like that slime or whatever that, some other people hang on to. And I'm like, oh, like, an angry person or something, it's like, oh, well, you're not really, like, that's not even you. Like, that's not who you are. You're not this angry person. Like, that's not even who you are. Like,
You got a
I
lot of
see
slime on
you.
you. You got a lot of slime on you. That's
You just got a lot of slime on you. And like, oh, like, I love you. And like, I love you through all that slime. And
I was going to do that when
so
someone
I just,
someone gets angry at me next. I just go, "Who's so slimy? Is it you? Who's so
let me just squeeze those cheeks. Yeah.
so slimy?" It's like the diffused situation, or like the I don't know.
Yeah, and so it is. It's just kind of like this whole other perspective of just like all this nonsense is like not even real. And like I don't need to be emotionally attached to like someone cutting me off in traffic or like whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like that stuff doesn't even matter. And
Mm.
like I just feel like it's so much easier to just like let things go and connect with people and who they really are and like feel love. Like I actually at one point when I was in the desert, I was connecting with my parents who have both passed, and just like, oh man, like I felt so much empathy for them. My dad was an alcoholic and my mom had schizophrenia, and I just remember really connecting in with them, like, oh wow, like no wonder you guys like life is hard and you guys were just had stuff that wasn't even yours. And like I just felt like empathy and love for them and like connection to them. And then I was like sad that they were gone, because I felt like I could have maybe helped them or like loved them more when they were here, because I didn't see that until now. But then I thought it inspired me, because I thought, well, I can go back into the world and be like, and like have this empathy and compassion for the people that are still alive, and I can connect with them and maybe have the space to like see them and love them and understand that like they're just slimed. So
That's how I'm going to see it. So, I love it.
Yeah,
A
so
beautiful thing to take from that. That's so beautiful. Yeah, really, really beautiful.
yeah, it was really nice, and just to feel so much more connected. And yeah, and then I learned how to drum, which was great. I learned how to play my drum, and now I feel a lot more confident, because it did take a while. Like there was times where I wouldn't drum, because it was like, well, I'm not gonna play my drum. I'm just gonna hang it up and look at it because it's so beautiful, but I don't really know how to play it. And like once in a while I would, but I kind of wouldn't, because I didn't know how. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I know how. Like I don't even need to. Yeah, I don't even need to know how. Like I just get that thing out, and she teaches me how to play the drum.
That's 100% it. There's no, you don't have to learn. You just have to go with it. I mean, and it's nice. You can sometimes learn different beats as drum circle, but that isn't what you, when you're on your own. You just need to listen to what the drum wants, and they'll tell you. It's always, yeah. But we have that kind of human way of like, I'm not good enough, I haven't learned, you know. It's just like, no.
No, it's like, just do it. And so now I just do it, and I just am able to get into this like playful place too, of just like, I'm just gonna play. Like it's okay if I don't like know the certain beat, or like, you know, I mean, like sure I could learn things and practice them, but it also feels really good to just play. And I did end up doing that in the desert, and now I can do that. Now I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that anytime. Like I can just pick her up and start playing. And I this Chuckwalla song came to me, and amazing. So I'm like singing and dancing and singing about Chuckwallas and drumming, and it was like so fun to just like not really even be worried, and like being, you know, like, oh I can't, or oh, you know, I don't know. It's like, oh, that can just be gone, and it's like so fun and playful and like freeing to just give myself permission to just be free and have fun and be creative and not be like self-critical.
Yes, it is called playing after all, isn't it? Playing the drum. It's not like
exactly, but like we don't let ourselves play. Like I wasn't letting myself play. I was just like being critical and like, oh, but I don't know how, and like I'm not worthy of like doing it or something. So.
I know a lot of people do feel that, and I think it helps you reconnect with your body and your own rhythm as well, doesn't it? When you just let yourself play and find it helps you see where you are and what's going on with you as well, when you're kind of just allowing that.
Oh. Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing. And thank you for sharing so much of your story and your wisdom and being so open about it. I guarantee it's going to help so many people in just lots of different ways. Like you don't have to go, I always sort of say you don't have to go out and do the full massive, even if you just spend a bit more time in nature, maybe you'll just sit there until the sun goes down quietly without phone on airplane or something, or maybe just try one night or try till midnight. It doesn't have to be because you might end up thinking you'll stay longer, but I think we can put blocks on. I can't do that. It's too much time. But just maybe sit out until the sun sets one day, or get up early when the sun rises, or stay till midnight and just allow, just give yourself that time, and and just listen to what the spirits and what nature wants to teach you, wherever you are in the world, like desert to green England or mountains, or and that's a lovely thing, is just experiencing the nature in different parts of the world, as well as experiencing the spirits in the nature of different parts of the world as well.
Oh, definitely. Just anywhere in nature. Yeah, it's like you don't have to go to a specific place. Like, just anywhere, and just connecting, because we can connect anywhere. I mean, even in our house we can. It's harder to, but like we can if we just try. We just practice. We don't have to try. It's not like trying. I sometimes don't like that. I don't like the word work. No, and I don't like the word try.
It's kind of, or should, those things all feel a bit like,
It's like we could just allow, like just connect, and we could just be, and we just connect, just allow. I like that word.
Experience, allow, yeah. And even the things that sometimes I did this for a while, again, I've not done it for a while, but just taking 5 to 10 minutes a day of just observing nature in your garden, just phone off, quiet, and just spend 5 to 10 minutes in absolute, just watching nature change and watching the cycles of the year change. And if you do that for like 5 minutes a day, the things you notice about your own garden, or the things you notice about nature that you walk past every day and you don't absorb, it's so calming and inspiring and enriching, really, I think, as well.
It is. And a lot of times when you're in that state is when something clicks too, when you have a problem, or you have like some resistance or like tension in your personal life. A lot of times when you get into those spaces, then all of a sudden it becomes clear, or like the answer comes, or you release the tension or the resistance about whatever's happening in your life, and then all of a sudden, like, everything's okay with your whole life.
Opening for an answer, because we do try too hard. Like, I've got to fix this, I've got to make this happen, and it's just like often our guides are going, can they just stop for a minute? Like, seriously. I remember seeing I think it was a starling, or no, a bird of some kind, in my mum's kitchen, and it was banging against the glass window, desperate. And I was like, that's just us most of the time, isn't it? Like, I can see the outside, I'm going to bang myself against the situation until it changes. It's like, in the end, it was just, I had to just hold it and take it out. And but I thought, oh my gosh, so many times I'm doing that, banging my head against the but I can see it. Why am I not able to, get there? And I was thinking, remember the bird. Just allow help, isn't it? Like, allow nature to help you, allow friends or family or guides or whoever it is, like with your cougar, allow them to come in and help you, and they'll show you, oh, you just go that way. It's like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Or even that pull from the air, from the window or the door that's open.
Yes,
feeling that pull of the air. It's like, oh, what if I just relaxed and felt wherever that pull is, to the opening.
That's such a good way of thinking. Yeah, rather than oh, well, I feel really, really inspired by this conversation, and I'm sure that people watching will do too. And we'll hopefully maybe catch up again in the future about the more adventures moving forward.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to share before we go? About you, because you do barefoot horse something.
Barefoot trimming, which is so funny, because after I started really connecting with my cougar spirit guide, I realized that, like, gosh, I am a cougar. I'm like down here with these horses, like, because I work around their hooves, and so I started my own business, the Barefoot Trimmer, and so I'm a barefoot horse hoof trimmer. So it's a natural way of doing care for their horses, rather than, a lot of times, like, people put shoes on horses. So that's kind of an old school way to go. And a lot of the newer research and newer, more natural way is to kind of like, let's look at wild horses and see how they really are in nature, and let's try to care for them in the way that, like, nature intended, and the way that, and so that's kind of this new thing I've been doing. And so I go around and visit all the horses in my area, and I trim their hooves, and I try to kind of mimic the way that they would wear down naturally in the wild, and it just makes them healthier and happier. And
you don't want a big iron shoe on them, do they? I just know what you think about
like
it. Nailed shoe into them. It's like,
no, that's not natural. And and so they end up doing really well, and it's kind of a new movement, and it's like kind of where we're headed is like backwards in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways.
Pretty healthy, I think.
Like, oh wait, yeah, it's like, wait, let's go back to before we started doing these things that maybe don't make sense, and do they make sense? And yeah, so it's kind of like doing this natural thing. And so yeah, it's funny, every time I go out and I'm under a horse and I'm just like, I'm down there, crouched over, hunched down, like grabbing their hooves and working on it. And I'm like, that's so funny, because cougars and horses are really connected in nature naturally. They're like kind of, like the cougar is the predator and the horse is the prey. And a lot of horse instinct is, to be connected to cougars in nature. They have a connection, and so I was like, I realized that like somehow I was like living out this connection also by just kind of being the cougar in the horse world. And so I do like horse training and stuff too, and I've got my own horses, and I'm like, wow, that's so interesting. Like, I'm really kind of embodying this cougar like relationship with horses in life, and I've just kind of always been called to it. And so yeah, it's been really connecting and really fulfilling for me to go and connect with horses, and to kind of be that, like, even though it's a predator prey relationship in the wild, it can also be in the human world. It's kind of more of a leadership, I guess, role.
Yeah, I like that.
And so it kind of,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was saying, I think it's a forgotten thing, or not forgotten, but not a thought about thing, that when we look at our spirit animals, the animals we feel really bonded to, that the prey or the predator, the opposite, is also really important to learn about as well. There's other aspects to work with. I think we often forget that. So the fact that you kind of realize, hold on, I'm doing this is brilliant.
Yeah, it's so cool. And I never like realized I was doing it until one day I'm like, wow, look at me. I'm like a cougar out here with these horses. Like, this is so funny.
That's brilliant.
I was really called to really fulfill and embody this whole experience with this cougar in all aspects of my life. So it's been really good and really fulfilling, and it's been really fun to be out and connecting with people and connecting with animals and kind of moving around. It's just kind of really feels like it's who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing. And so I know there's a lot more that's unfolding about it, like doing massage too. And I'm actually just started learning Reiki. And so I'm excited to just keep going and keep learning and keep like bringing new tools to like help people and help animals. And I have all kinds of ideas and inspirations, and it's just like, let's see how it all unfolds. I'm also a teacher for outdoor school, so that's another thing. When you do, it's like I do all these like part-time things, which is like, once I learned astrology, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like, I don't need to resist this. Like, I don't need to put myself in the 9-to-5 job because I didn't want to do it, and I always felt like I should do it. But now that I've like looked at my own wisdom, but also looking at kind of the astrology and stuff too, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm just following my intuition. Like, I'm supposed to be kind of a dabbler. I'm supposed to kind of bounce around, and I've got all this Gemini energy, and I'm supposed to just do lots of different things. And then I'm out there with kids. I teach outdoor. It's called Washington Outdoor School that I work for also. And so we bring kids outside, and we have school outside, and we let nature teach kids. And so that's a huge part of my life too that I do. So it's really
I love how it's also linked. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. So it's like, it's all weaving together too, which is great. And I thought, I would love to start a school and kind of have like it be somehow all of this, somehow spirituality and nature and animals. And I'm like, I something might be coming. I don't know. I just bought a property with 3 acres, and I'm like, ooh, what's next? Like, somehow something's coming, and I don't know what, but I'm excited.
That's the exciting thing, isn't it? You come to this rebirth, and then now there's new potential, and that excitement of where that's leading you is brilliant.
Exactly. And just allowing the space for me to be in the state of always becoming, and like allowing myself to be and do whatever I kind of want, and not really have those restrictions, like let those restrictions fall away of like, the things that or the reasons why you think you can't do things, or all those things from the past that held us back from being and doing and having whatever we want. Like, let's just let that go away and really move into what we want.
Yeah. Oh, this is a brilliant. Oh, well, I look forward to catching you again in the future and the next chapter of all these adventures. But thank you again so much for chatting with me and being part of this. And is there a website for your horse work or everything you're doing? Or I can.
I don't.
That's all right.
No, I've got. You can find me on. You can connect. I have a Facebook page. Barefoot Trimmer. I have a Facebook page. You can connect with me on Facebook. Like,
cool.
you know, friend me on Facebook.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm just like, I'm just not super savvy with being connected on interwebs, but I might get better about it. We'll see. But thank you so much for having me.
No, it's been
great to
lovely to hear
connect with you.
A beautiful story, and thank you so much to you and the Lady Cougar as well. And thanks everyone for watching, and see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.